Hello and welcome. Today we are dancing with Amelia Hawk. I always say this at the beginning because it's called Peter Dance With. So we're dancing with your thoughts and practice. Amelia, we met a long time ago, I think. You said when I got off the train, like 10 years, but
it's longer
maybe
than
more.
10 years.
Yeah. And it's been perhaps 10 years since we last saw each other.
I think so.
And so you're meeting us extremely fresh. It's like, what, half an hour since we reconnected? But Amelia, you're an amazing performance artist. And I've in fact only ever truly seen your work once, which was the first time I saw you, which was way back. I don't want to say when, because I can't remember, but it was in De Montfort in Leicester.
It could be nearly 20 years ago.
But I think the thing I want to sort of say, because I connected so strongly with you as an artist and your work and as a person, because it was this piece where, if I remember correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we were at a sort of examination, and we were asked as audience to participate in doing this exam. And the exam was sort of absurd and estranged and weird in some way. And I think it had such an impact on me. And I remember telling you, because it was a performative experience where I felt, well, I should give some clarity. So I really struggled at school. So these situations, these sort of performances of masking and trying to look like you're normal, look like you're a person in a situation where I felt like I was being tested upon my validity as a human, and all my energy and effort was going into just trying to hide and disappear and make it seem as though I understand what's going on, when I had no idea. I was so confused and so lost and struggling to sort of make sense of things. And this was not just like one exam. This was the permanent state for my childhood from a very young age. And I think being in that situation and being put into a examination place and having it turned into this magical, playful, changeable, manipulable space was so amazing for me, because in a way it gave me my personhood. It made me feel like I can be a person, and I can be weird and strange and not understand, and I can exist as I am, perhaps even in these very strange spaces. And like since then, like, yeah, I've often thought about what you do and how you work, and in a way I probably haven't wanted to touch it too much, because I think it's so magical what you gave me all those years ago, because it truly has stayed with me as like something really special and stuff. This feels like a real confessional. I don't think I've ever told you this, but it's true. So, and that I wanted to say that as a way of describing your work, because your work is political, it's artistic, it's participatory often, and there's so many other words we can attach to it. But for me, it doesn't really get to the heart of what it is that you do, and I struggle to describe it. But in thinking about how I would describe what you are and what you do, I had to think about how actually that piece changed me and affected me as a person and as an artist as well. So that's how I would describe you. But if you were meeting someone for the first time, how do you introduce yourself? Like how would you say, give them a little bit of a entry into your world.
Context.
Yeah.
Before I do that, I'm going to say that I think that piece, without me knowing it at that moment in time, was also the start of me discovering what it means to be dyslexic as an adult. Because I know what it is to be dyslexic as a child. And for me, that's very much about writing and tests and, you know, being maybe slightly different to some of the other people in the class. But as an adult who is nearly 40, I've done a lot of learning about what dyslexia is. So I've worked in institutions where I've had to like know the names of artists and curators, and I just can't recall that information. It just doesn't exist in my head.
Yeah.
And I've really struggled with that, but I haven't known why. I've just really masked that. And it's only taken till I'm nearly 40 to understand that there's so much more about dyslexia to do with memory, to do with language recall just generally. Yeah, I do feel a bit emotional about it, that it's taken me this long to really understand what it is to be dyslexic.
It's really hard.
As a grown-up.
Yeah. I'm the same, honestly. And I think that's why I connected, because I didn't say it explicitly. I've never been even tested for dyslexia. I had a sort of a traumatic experience where my parents were told the school couldn't afford a test. That I wouldn't amount to enough to deserve even knowing whether or not I was dyslexic. And my parents didn't tell me that, of course, because that's horrifying. They told me that I'm just going to be slower and take more time. And I remember just feeling like, oh, I'm going to die and not have had lived as much as everyone else. And it just has such a weight, and it's very hard to fully appreciate, because dyslexia is sort of considered like this, so, oh yeah, many people have dyslexia and it's fine and stuff. But the stigma and the fitting in and the masking and stuff, it's real and it hurts. And
it's exhausting.
And it takes a long time to unpack. And I'm very privileged, I think, to be able to talk about it and to be where I am. But it doesn't change what had happened.
No. Yeah.
So thank you for...
Well, thanks for this conversation as well. But to go back to your question, I suppose these days I would say I was more of a socially engaged artist. So I've found a real passion for working with people. And I think I probably always did have that, hence performance. But now I've also trained in mental health a bit more. I was a young carer for my mother who's got schizoaffective disorder, so that's always been a part of my life. But at some point I decided to put them together more literally. So I do a lot of general work in community and with people. But my practice is also, I describe it as a way of having conversations and holding space. So that if you ask me what my practice is, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So anything else that comes out of it is about conversation and holding space. So it might be, I've set up like an emotional coffee van where you can go and order a coffee to match your mood. But really that's a chance for you to have a conversation about...
Yeah. What's an emotional coffee?
Yeah. Why am I ordering this? Yeah. So it's just to have those conversations. That's what it is.
No, it's great. I'm so inspired by how you're able to articulate where you work and so on. Because I think I almost get... what do you call it? It's sort of trapped by dance. Dance does a lot of work for me in articulating what I do and want to do and where I find my interest. But at the same time, it can be also limiting because it doesn't quite describe where I'm going. And you do it so well. It's really a pleasure to hear. So,
very kind.
Thank you. Okay, so we are at a rock.
Brimmen Rocks, yeah. North Yorkshire. It kind of feels slightly like the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But I said to you when we were planning this, didn't I? Can we find the middle of nowhere? And then I've done a lot of thinking about the middle of nowhere.
Oh, nice.
The middle of nowhere is always the middle of somewhere. You can't ever be in the middle of nowhere. So maybe it's more about escapism and that feeling of being slightly lost. And maybe there's something quite exciting about feeling lost. For me, anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that is just escapism from life, you know, when it gets tricky. I've always imagined being in the middle of nowhere, which obviously is somewhere. But really it's a vastness of empty space, which actually we don't have today. It's really beautiful and full of rocks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're in the car park and there are people sort of coalescing also maybe desiring some sense of being in nowhere, being in the middle of nowhere. I love that. It's such a British saying that I've never fully, heard the articulation of. But now you say it, that exactly where is the middle of nowhere? The middle of somewhere, surely.
It just doesn't exist, does it?
Okay, but could you maybe give us a taste or some sort of leading into like what we might experience and what do?
So a couple of years ago, 1 year ago, let's not give it too much time, I trained in forest therapy, and for me it was a period of healing, and it was also a period of escapism. So lots of things coming together at one moment in time. I just had this real pull to train in forest therapy and be outside. So we're going to experience that today. And really the nuts and bolts of forest therapy are about slowing down in nature, being with yourself, being quite present for yourself, but also trying to switch off all that chatter in your brain that capitalism has just put in our brains, hasn't it, to make us work fast, walk from A to B without noticing what's in between. I'm going to really try and turn that off and slow down and just be present. That's what we're going to try and do.
Yeah.
And that's through our senses.
Yeah.
And it's through being in a green space. And it could be a really small green space. So if someone wants to do it at home and they've got a little bit of space outside, or they've got a park nearby, or they've just got a pot of tomatoes growing on their window shelf, like no matter how small the green space, you can do something.
Yeah, yeah.
So it doesn't have to be this very impressive rock formation that we're visiting today.
It doesn't have to be a sort of iconic middle of nowhere.
It can be in anywhere, middle of somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's nice. Great. So what did you call it? Forestry?
So I trained in forest therapy.
Forest therapy.
Other people may call it forest bathing. And its traditional name is Shinrin-yoku because it comes from Japan, from the 1980s. And in the 1980s, the Japanese government and scientists and a whole lot of different people realised that the population was becoming more urbanised and having more urbanised health problems, particularly anxiety, heart-related problems.
Oh, wow.
Things that we see a lot in UK, Sweden, common, built-up areas in the world. And they thought about how to change that and wanted to connect the urbanised population with green spaces again and begin looking at the scientific benefits and the health benefits of doing so. And so there is now research behind why and how it's done. I think one of the most interesting things for me is trees release something called phytoncides into the air, which is their way of communicating to another tree. It might be about danger or just it's more often something like that. So it's something that we can't see that we then breathe in, and it helps us like de-stress. It helps our immune system. So actually, we're just being around trees. We're just having those positive benefits straight away.
Right.
And that's scientifically proven stuff, which is exciting.
Yeah. And so that was going to be my question, but you sort of because you were speaking about green space, and it's called forest. So it's not also about only meeting with a forest. It's more broad than that in a way.
It is, yeah. And I would say with it, you can adapt it to what fits you. So I trained as a forest therapist, but actually I use it a much more fleetingly within community practice. So it might be that I borrow some elements here and there, and we do a bit of that. So we might slow down and lie under the trees and watch the movement, for example. But that might be the only forest therapy element we do within that session. The rest of it might be creative drawing or something in response.
Okay.
So today we're going to go quite straight forest therapy, but not too straight.
Yeah. That's
that
great.
Makes any sense.
No, it's great. I think it's really important to just to meet you where you are. And this sounds about right. And I think we'll unpack a lot of how it connects with what you've previously been doing and what you're doing at the moment and stuff later in our reflections. We don't need to articulate that as a thing now. It's I'm sure it will emerge, or maybe not, and that will be interesting.
We'll see. Yeah.
Great. So let's pause, and we'll come back in a few. Well,
At least an hour.
In an hour or so. Yeah. I was going to say a few hours, and I was like, it's not that long, and it's not just a few minutes, but yeah, in an hour or so.
Yeah.
Great, thank you, Amelia. See you in a minute. So, we're back, and I changed my voice as if we're not going to have a conversation. This is my podcast voice. But we were just talking, of course. But I thought we can talk a bit about what happened, and it seems already the forest therapy and the way you're leading it and working with it, it has conversation sort of entwined. And you spoke a bit about how conversation is a material maybe, or part of your practice. So I was curious, maybe you could speak to that, how conversation was for you today maybe, and if it links at all or not.
Yeah, that is interesting, because I think of forest therapy as a non-conversational practice, I suppose.
In comparison maybe to your artistic practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, so I think it does sit alongside rather than it is my practice, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And elements of it come out into different work or projects, but it's not the practice itself, I suppose. That being said, I think the conversation happened afterwards, doesn't it?
Yeah, today. Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to say this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think it couldn't have happened in between. So
No.
I guess to explain, there's the rhythm. So there's an invitation. We do an activity, invitation, activity, invitation, ending activity, and then we just end up chatting.
Yeah.
On a very beautiful rock.
Yeah, we did, and it was really beautiful, and yeah. So to go into a bit more detail, first we were with motion, was it? And then we just shared a little bit how that felt to be with motion, the motion of the sky, of the world.
You felt a bit nauseous, didn't you?
Well, yeah. I noticed that, everything is in motion. I think so often with these things, it's the most obvious of things, but the spending time with them really provides something very enriching. So once I recognized that everything was moving, I focused on a rock, which I assumed would be more still, and then I noticed how much I was moving. So there's this inescapability, and I also started to maybe conceptualize or think about, imagine. We were talking about how the imagination played in, how sound was also moving all around me, and such I wouldn't say noisy place, but it had plenty of richness in terms of sound.
I think you imagine you go to this middle of nowhere that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And it's empty, and that's just not true, is it, I suppose? And the sound is everywhere. There's so many birds, the wind is so noisy, that there's sound everywhere. And I think once you start tuning into it, it's really interesting to notice the many different layers of that sound, and how our sound is playing out into that, whether it's talking or not, whether it's just breathing or we've got quite noisy clothes on, haven't we?
Yeah, you probably hear us in the car, so adjusting and things. But it really brings. It was very clear how I felt like I was becoming in. I was noticing my involvement with the green space, with the nature, with the world that we found ourselves in, which felt very important, I think, in terms of what we were doing today.
That dropping down in your body a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think I also noticed that. I think it takes a while to get to that moment. I think during the first invitation, well, even before that, when we're trying to engage our senses through almost like meditative practice, I suppose.
Yeah.
That takes a little while to get into, especially if you're less comfortable or familiar with that. I've definitely had people in the past that are quite turned off by that, and really struggle with it. And others that have embraced it very much. But then you go into the what's in motion, so we're moving quite slowly and walking, which was about 10 minutes. So we're about 20 minutes in by that point in time. It took me till the next invitation, which was another 15 minutes, to feel that drop. Yeah. That chat had gone. I was at my own pace, didn't really care if someone walked past me or not, and I looked a bit out of context. I was just present. So it probably took around half an hour to get to that point for me.
Yes, the next part we were with the visuals, right? If I remember correctly, was visual textures. No, sorry, that was the one after, was textures, touching textures. And for me, it was a strange place to land in a way, because I'd been moving towards coming here all of yesterday and this morning. So it's been a long journey, and then we just meet and we're straight in the car and we're driving out into the middle of nowhere, and then all of a sudden, then I'm with my body, and I've come all this way. I've been on a journey. I've had this intention to sort of, to meet with myself, and that was really powerful. We were speaking about that at the end a little bit. This sense of, how to arrive, how that intentionality of the forest therapy is sort of acting with what are quite human. They're sort of just very there, things in our nature, in our presence. And what I really appreciated was, today we've made a big effort. You researched this location, you even came here to scout it a little bit with your kids, and I've been organising this, trying to arrange a time and things, and then the travel and everything, and yet you could do this with a pot plant.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so there's sort of how the invitation actually works, how the intention sort of provides that sort of space is really beautiful.
It's making the space for you, which I just don't think in our busy lives, whether they're busy through work or otherwise, that space isn't made. Yeah.
You brought it up though, work. So maybe we can talk about that a little bit, because I was thinking, you were speaking about capitalism before. I was thinking about I think this is on my mind actually quite a bit at the moment, is like consumerism, how to have access to certain sensations or spaces, public spaces, it's connected to a form of consumption. And I feel like we're almost policing ourselves in a way to expect that we're only valid in a certain space or in a certain activity if we're consuming it, if we're sort of, and you mentioned in a way like we have a bit more permission because we're working as well, and it's a really tricky thing to find motivations to take care of oneself outside of that mechanism, because especially for me, I was thinking about buying a coffee, sort of like this luxury, and I'm always questioning the efficacy of the coffee itself, and then I'm thinking about just the economic and financial burden of, is this value for money? And then the whole time I'm consuming it, I'm barely managing to drop and actually be with the sensation and the relaxation that I was probably trying to get through that consumption, through that consumerism that I was sort of participating in. I had a question at the end of that long rant, and now it's sort of disappearing. But
is it around permission? It felt like it was touching that way.
Exactly. Yeah, how do we give motivation and permission to ourselves, and how has that been for you and this practice? Like, how are you navigating those tensions, I suppose? Yeah.
I think when I was training, I very intentionally made the space for it. So one of the practices that you do is to have a sit mat, which you've used today.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And find your sit spot, which can be anywhere. So if you struggle to go outside, then your sit spot might be a window that can look onto some green space. Or if you can't walk very far, you might have access to a small yard, or you might have a garden space. So it could be anything. So it could be really close, but it could also be a park that you go to. That's perhaps on your way to somewhere that you intentionally now stop within. Yeah. And the idea is that every day, not necessarily for that long, it could be 5 minutes, but it'd be better if it was more like 20 or so. You return to that same spot and you're just present there.
Oh wow.
And that's it.
And you actually commit to a specific place.
That's the theory, yes.
Right.
I have to confess that I really, really struggled with it at first. I tried sitting outside near my house, and like there was traffic and things, like getting really frustrated with it. And I brought it to the session. She was like, "Well, I think you're focusing on the wrong part. Like you need to accept that the traffic is there before you can get to the other." So I had tried and moved the spot many, many times, but and did eventually manage to do it, and feel contentment with that. But I also try and now just slow down in general, because I think it's really about the slowing down, the being present, and the not always having to have that end point. You're going for a walk to get somewhere, to take someone somewhere, to walk a dog, whatever it might be, but actually you can just go and sit. That's free.
Yes, yeah.
And it's
exactly
not necessarily that much of your time on a day, not necessarily that far, but it's just giving yourself permission to do that.
And to remember that we have those things like close by. I think that's like one of the struggles. And I think I have a busy mind, I think, like, and I wonder, because I had a similar sensation today when I found I went towards some amazing rocks, and then there was a lot of people coming to see the rocks and climb the rocks, and they were talking a lot about their experience and stuff. And I had to think, do we need to talk about them all the time? But of course, that's what they're there for. And I found myself getting frustrated with exactly that, and so I sort of recognized that the desire to, or the internal monologue to sort of move on and find something different. And yeah, I think you're hitting on something that lives in me a lot, is like this sort of busy mind, and analyzing everything, thinking over everything, doubting everything, questioning everything. We were talking about dyslexia at the beginning of the thing, and that's something that I think I've been grappling with recently, is allowing myself the permission to ask questions and to not understand and to feel a little bit lost, has often been denied. I think there's been a sense of like, you're too slow, you're not getting it, you're not permitted within the space because you're not quick enough to understand. And so that those questions have become a sort of very difficult. It's become very hard to sort of like let the questions go and just settle in, and yet spaces like this, when they work, it's, for me, it has to do with I'm allowing myself to not worry about if I'm doing it right or not, if I have understood the place a little bit, and feel okay that I'm not going to get judged, and I'm not going to get put in a place where I start to feel like I'm less of a person in some way. So that was really interesting. But then the next part after that Or maybe I shouldn't just run on.
No, it's fine. I think it's interesting to see how our brains work, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have similar wiring as well. I'm very good at going on a whole tangent, and I do not know where I started.
Yes. I don't like.
Yeah.
Busy mind.
So if there's two of us together, this could be an interesting conversation.
Well, I was going to pull it back. We have our little, like, if we go through what we did. So we were with the visuals, and then we came back and we had a small talk about that, and then we went away and we was with the touch or the textures.
Yeah, which was number 2. Yeah.
And for me, this was so nice to feel my back against things. This was a real joy, and I'm a dancer. I use my back a lot, and yet still to be given the invitation and the space and the intention to go there, it's really nice, really special. I was thinking, we were talking about how, like, sometimes if I'm waiting for a train or something, I have this opportunity to drop, and usually I'll get this sort of like, oh, I have time, so then I'll try to be productive and I'll pick up my phone to do something, or to entertain myself, or to learn something, or to consume some content or something that I feel like I should keep up with. And what was nice is I noticed that happening a little bit here, where that moment came when I was like, oh, I would normally then try to make this moment productive, that I sort of moved away and I had this sort of safe space around that, protecting that a little bit.
Which I think can be quite hard to do when that's just not currently what we're wired to do in life, is it?
Yeah.
I had a similar sensation with my back, actually, in that final invitation, because you started off on a stone lying down, which was exactly what my instinct was drawn to, but I couldn't find the perfect spot. And then I noticed halfway up this up another stone, sort of halfway up, what looked like a seat to me, and I thought, I think my body can fit in there. And it did fit so perfectly. There was almost a hollow of the stone, which was the same size as my bum, and then I rested back slightly, and it was almost like I was being in an armchair. It was so perfect, and I didn't want my eyes open. I just closed them, and I wasn't asleep, but I was on the edge of that. I was on such a state of deep relaxation that I was absolutely content with where I was. Even when the little girl was like, oh, why is that person sat up there, or whatever it might be, I was absolutely fine with that. And I could have, apart from the fact that we had to go back because it was 20 minutes, I could have just stayed. And I probably would have fallen asleep, I think, at that point. Yeah.
But it's an interesting type of sort of, because I go for a walk in nature, or go to the woods and stuff, but having just a little bit, like, rather than it being the destination, that it's a place that then I can go further, is already a sort of a huge change to the way I'm normally approaching green spaces and trying to achieve those things and get used to them, and so on. And then we did longer ones, like you say. That was the sort of last part.
Yeah.
And it was by that point I was feeling sort of tingling in my legs, so I really felt like I'd landed in a way. It was really quite special. And we were talking a bit about it's called therapy, but you were saying it's a little bit more therapeutic rather than
yeah. I think you asked a question that I asked myself, which was, why is it called therapy? And I'm trying to level 3 in counselling, so that feels like a very protected space. So, as I told you, I asked someone who was more trained than I was, and she sort of unpacked it for me a little bit and said, it's okay. Some things are therapeutic rather than therapy, and they may use a similar terminology, but it isn't therapy, and you know it isn't actually therapy, it's therapeutic, and that was okay for me. Yeah, because I do feel it's important that therapy is a space that is regulated and safe, I suppose.
Yeah.
Whereas this is definitely not. It's not an unsafe space at all. It's just a different space. It's more towards that well-being side of things, I suppose. It's that looking after yourself through engaging with something that isn't necessarily a talking therapy, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. And on you were saying how the last conversation we had was a little bit more. So this is after we had tea, and I suppose you don't always have tea.
You do always have tea.
You do always have tea.
Always have tea, yeah.
Okay, well, that's interesting because, of course, you have a tea practice.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. Yeah.
And so it was just a coincidence, or
yeah. No, you always end with a tea, and it's an opportunity for sharing and for things to come out. And actually, I think that fits into holding space, which is also what I'm quite interested in, how we hold space for others. And that's always about having a framework where there's a beginning, middle and end. So you're very contained within that. Because if I'd have said to you on the last invitation, right, thanks, let's walk back to the car, you'd have been like, oh, okay, I finished a bit quickly.
Yeah.
But by having tea, you're still in that slow state, because you've just reached a state where you're probably quite relaxed, or you might have felt something different, however you've approached it.
Yeah.
If you just end abruptly, you either feel potentially cheated, maybe, or it's too abrupt, or there's something missing. So you need to have that slow return back to a slightly more normal environment, whatever normal might be.
Yeah, exactly. And like in the tea practice that you have, the artistic work, I suppose you have that as well. There's the people coming up to the stall or the stand. I've never seen it, but I'm imagining.
So the tea project was, I am interested in hot drinks in general, because I think they hold space for conversation and for people exchanging. It's sort of a social custom that we've got, but I think that they do more than we realise, and it's an often space of exchange. So I worked on a project that was to do with infant feeding. That was the invitation. I was to explore that, and I was interested in how we are caring for the infants, but how we're also caring for the caregivers too. It's can be quite an exhausting process of giving care so intently. So wanted to frame that around a drink and exchange. How might we use that humble cup of tea to do more than just be a gift or a nutrient or a conversation giver? Could we unpack that slightly? So we made teas exploring so many different ingredients. You picked up on apricot earlier. How do we have an apricot tea? Yeah. So there were child-friendly ingredients, and well, they were all child-friendly, to be fair. None of them were caffeinated. But we had traditional ingredients such as chamomile, but then we had the apricots that were obviously quite popular with the younger people. And people made their own combinations. We made different recipes to see what people enjoyed, but also what nutrition we might get from them. So apricot was there because dried apricot in particular is quite good for iron, and particularly if people have post-pregnancy might have post-childbirth might have lost X amount of blood. Also helps with tiredness and anemia and all these many things. So we had apricot there very intentionally, and some other ingredients for those reasons, which might be mood boosting or whatever it might be. So people were drawn to what they were drawn to, but there was also some thinking about nutrition or benefit to the body in some way. And then we developed 2 teas. So we had rest and play, which was for the children, and we had relax and lactate, which was for the people that were lactating, but anyone could drink either.
It's amazing. And because I think the question that I'm really interested in, because you also have these practices in water. Like water starts to feel like a theme, actually, if I look at your website and your work. These conversations in water is such a simple and beautiful idea. And I think one of my questions is, where do the ideas come from? Like how do they sort of how do you manifest? They seem to be very personal, if I may, sort of like, what's the source material, I suppose?
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess they probably are personal, but I probably don't know how to make work any other way either.
No, of course.
Because I guess it's coming from my own perspective.
Mm.
So, although the tea project came out of the invitation to work with infants, that's not unrelated because I have small children. So the first water project came out of a project I was doing with Spike Island in Bristol, where I proposed that we would look at how a space might care for us and what we might need in that space if it was going to care for us, and we were going to imagine as widely as possible what on earth we wanted in that space. And we all, so there's a group of about 5 of us, we all put water down, and water might have been a shower, it might have been a bath, it might have been a walk in the rain, it could have been all sorts of things. Because it was fantastical as well, there was a hot tub, of course, and, but everybody had put water in some way, and that I couldn't really get over, and I'm still fascinated today as to why people put water down, but it absolutely sparked the journey for that piece of work. So then I went out and had conversations with different people in different bodies of water to experience what that was like and understand why other people were also drawn to water as a space that can hold space for you and can help and heal and support. And people had lots of different reasons for wanting to be in water. Moments peace, helping with their physical body. Some people had like arthritis and other physical needs. So it had both a physical and an emotional space for people, and just to let go. I do it myself. I stand in the shower, and I'll stand in the shower for quite a long time sometimes, just to let go, and it's just a space that feels quite protective and quite possible to just be within. And the same, if I go to a swimming pool, secretly I just want to float in the water, which isn't really the done thing when you've got swimming lanes, but I would just happily just float and just exist like that in the water. So that started that interest in water, and it's
well, I mean, and also it's forest bathing by another name, and
Absolutely.
of course bathing is this idea of letting go and being in water and sort of and dropping in. So it's sort of a great theme in the sort of beauty of it. And may I ask, so how often are you doing this kind of practice now?
I think now forest therapy is more moved into community workers, and elements of it are coming out. So I did a workshop series in the summer where we did quite a few walks, and within those walks we would pull out different elements of forest therapy, whether it was lying under the trees and looking at the movement in the trees and then trying to draw that without looking, or whether it was slowing down with not microscopes, the other ones, magnifying glass.
Magnifying glass,
yes.
yeah.
We were looking at the details, and if you ever looked at a seed through a magnifying glass, just a standard flower seed, it can look quite alien, quite different to how you imagine.
Right.
So we were thinking about the journey from seeds to trees, and nature's kind of creeping in everywhere, but just taking some of those practices and putting them in other contexts to give other people the tools that they could then use another time or slow down. I think slowing down is probably one of the biggest important parts of the practice. Being slow so that you can just have an experience of time that's different to that fast-paced thing that we are all on, that treadmill.
Yeah, super beautiful. I feel very, I mean, I still feel quite wordless. That was the first reaction from the first prompt, I guess, that you gave when we went out into the woods and with the rocks. Was how I feel lost for words, and it feels really important and apt, in fact. We sort of can manage these things all the time and package them and put them into art projects or into a business model of some sort of things, and they have all good intentions and everything, but ultimately the thing itself is really precious and almost sacred. So I feel very blessed to have this opportunity again. Like, I'm using this as a podcast. It has a commercial element to it. It has a consumptive element. Okay, I'm not funded, and there's no advertisement, at least not that I know of, none that I'm putting into the podcasts. But yeah, it still has its attention. It's drawing from it. So that we can still find ourselves in these places is really precious, because it's a big question as well, and I find it in my own work of like moving between wanting to help and be active in community and political, and at the same time trying to make art and not have the art compromised by the desire for activism, and not have the activism sort of what's the word, have it sort of being extracted from by the art as a sort of extractive practice, because that's creating other problematic dynamics in a community-like situation. But it's a balance, like, and I wouldn't want to work anywhere else either.
Yeah. It is finding a balance, isn't it? But I think within all of that juggle, you've got to make space for yourself.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what this is.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. We were talking about families earlier, and I think amongst the sort of complexity of being in this society and everything it throws at us and literally hits us in the face, trying to survive is actually not a bad motivation.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely in part why I ended up here, is that trying to survive and heal a little bit, which is important.
Yeah. No, thank you for letting us in. But I usually close, if that's okay, unless there's something burning to talk about, by sort of inviting a little bit to say, like, how people could get in touch with you and your work. It's very simple, really, because you have an amazing website.
That's very kind of you.
Amelia-Hawk.com.
There we go. You answered the question, didn't you? Yeah.
But maybe if is there, do you have anything coming up or anything that you would like to sort of name explicitly, or just is there an open invitation for people who are interested in these kind of things that are maybe living in this area, or that have opportunities to be in contact with where you are and where you're working?
There's nothing explicitly to name. I think, like any freelancer, it's seasonal, should we say. So we're in a quiet patch at the moment after coming out of a busy one. Yeah. So I'm just going currently with the flow and seeing where that river ends. So
watch this space.
You
also are on Instagram, of course.
Everybody's on Instagram.
Yeah, everyone. Yeah.
Well, not everyone. Yeah, it's Amelia_Hawk_.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely another Amelia Hawk out there doing very different things.
I don't know who they are.
Well, the internet can lead you there. Yeah.
But this is a pleasure to reconnect after such a long time. Your work and your influence on me is extremely important and valuable to me. So I'm glad we can reconnect in this way, and I hope it was nice to reimagine what you're doing and where you're at in this season and at this moment with me. So thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Goodbye.